Today, I'd love to introduce you to one of my dearest friends, Malika Wright, who is also a writer. Malika had an idea about interviewing me and having a chat about my book, Lead with Me, A Creative Path to Finding and Following Your True Voice. So, hi, Malika.
Hi, Lori. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming up with this idea.
No
Um,
problem.
yeah, so do you want to share a little bit about you and how you kind of came to this idea? Because we've been in a writing group together.
For
We
quite a
met
few
right
years
around,
now.
yeah, so we met right around the time this book started to be written. So
I actually saw another video with a separate author being interviewed, and I was like, that would be so cool for Lori because you have such a light and an energy. So when you talk and you kind of like glow a little bit when you talk about flow and especially your book. So I just felt like this would be like the best way for anyone to get any answers to their questions they may have and just really take a step out to just really find out what the book's all about for themselves.
thank you. Appreciate that so much. So
No
you mentioned
problem.
the flow challenges, and
Yes.
that's the funny thing about this book is it wasn't a book where I sat down and I just said, okay, I'm going to write a book and came up with an outline or a message I wanted to deliver. As you know, the book started to be written during one of the flow challenges. And for
Hmm.
people who don't know what they are, at the very start of the COVID lockdown, I was feeling really stressed. And so I just challenged myself to write for 5 to 10 minutes a day, or which was for me an activity that I knew brought me joy and got me into the flow state. And the flow state is that amazing feeling we all get when
Hmm.
we're just so engaged in what we're doing that we lose track of time. And I was so amazed by how much better I was starting to feel that I started telling friends, and friends started telling friends. And this great creative community has been growing ever since. But during one of those flow challenges, I started writing poetry, and it kind of just started happening where, I just felt like poetry was almost being written through me. I was
Mm.
definitely in a state of flow. And in about 10 days, I wrote over 80 poems.
Wow,
And
that's
the
impressive.
poems were just about my own process, about creativity, about my struggles, those days we all have when we just feel blocked, my inner critic, about, that connecting with that inner voice. And prior to the pandemic and almost all of my adult life, I've been studying lots of different practices, from creative practices to coaching practices. I'm an energy healer, and I've taught workshops to lots of different organizations on stress reduction and stress management. And
Hmm.
everything that I've done has been focused on helping people connect with their true voice, connecting with their true self. And
Yes.
so after I had these poems, I was like, I could write a book, just a little book, and include the poems just on
Not little.
creativity. Yeah, 80 poems. But I really, the other thing that lights me up, and that's what this book is about doing what lights us up. That's what the
Yes.
the flow challenges are about. It's like making space in our lives, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes a day, to do what brings us joy, even if we don't think we're good at it or anybody else thinks we're good at it, just for the sheer fact that it brings us joy and it gets us into flow. I just think that's so healing and that flow grows. And so I didn't want to just share my story. I
Hmm.
wanted to support other people. And so I took a lot of the exercises that I developed in workshops that I taught over the years. I developed some new ones. And I really just wanted to create a vessel that anybody could use to connect with their own true self and, have their own creative adventure, whatever that might look like, because it's different for each of us. And
Hmm.
I wanted to include the poems and the exercises together because I know the flow challenges have been so helpful for me, and I think others in our
Yes.
community and our
Hmm.
writing circle that we're both
Absolutely.
a part of, because we are not doing it alone, right? When we travel
Hmm.
with other people that are on similar journeys, even if our journey is so individualized and feels
Hmm.
so unique and feels like we're alone, we're really not. We're supported by, this whole universe of people on similar paths. And so I really wanted the readers to feel like they had a friend. I wasn't necessarily a coach per se, but just a friend, another creative friend who's been there, and sort of telling my story through the poems as well as through everything else that's in the book. So that's the story of how the book came to be written.
And it's great because it shows like your vulnerability, your transparency. That's what helps people. Like telling them like I was right where you were at, and here I am now. Like how to overcome it. Like I love how it's so practical, it's easy to use, easy to follow, and you don't have to read it in like from start to finish. You can kind of flip around to the part that speaks mostly to you, right? So
Yeah.
that's great. So I have
Yeah.
to ask, so who did you write the book for?
I really wrote the book for other people like me who might be at a turning point in their life. They might be seeking either to share their gifts as in a creative venture, or creators, writers, artists, anybody that's seeking to connect with their true selves in some way. And that could be connecting with our unique gifts and looking to share them in the form of a business that helps
Mm,
other people. Or that can
yeah.
be someone that's at a turning point or going through a hard time, like we all were during
Yes.
those early days of the lockdown. And so many of us
Absolutely.
continue to be. Our firstborn just went to college, and that's a
Ah,
huge,
yes.
huge
Exciting. Yes.
turning point. But as a
Yes, yes.
mom, right,
Mhm,
life is continually giving us these junctures and changes, and it's never ending, right? And so we're
mhm,
always going through these times. And I think any point of transition, whether it feels uncomfortable or difficult, or it's something exciting like starting a new creative venture, it's an opportunity and almost, I think, an invitation to go within, to tune into our true selves, to listen to our voice, because I feel like we're always being directed by this
mhm,
inner voice that's joyful and peaceful and always wants the best for us and knows what's in our
mhm.
best interests. And so, if we can just connect with that part of ourselves and remember that that part of ourselves is always there to access, no matter what's going on the outside, we have that within. That's who the book's for. Anybody, that's taking a leap, which is the cover,
Yes.
the title, Leap with Me. Um, and I really see a leap as, a lot of times, I've heard authors talk about a leap as something external, that we're taking
Mhm.
a risk, something the whole world can see. But
Yeah,
for me, I really look at it as anything that's stretching us out of our comfort zone,
I
that's
like that.
aligned with who we really are. So that might mean as simple as writing poems, like that
Mhm.
took courage on some level, even though no one else saw them until I shared them. But sharing them also took courage. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
these conversations that we have with ourselves when we're really authentic and we take time and space and get calm, or do make 5 minutes a day for our creative passions,
Mhm.
that's a leap too, and sometimes I think those are almost the biggest leaps in our lives, when we say, hey, what brings me joy is important. And even if the rest of the world doesn't affirm this in this moment, I still need to
Mhm.
do it because it's who I am. Um,
Exactly.
I see that as a leap. And so that's what this book is for, anybody that is taking a leap, whatever that means to them.
Oh, that's great. It's a lot. Oh. Okay, so you kind of touched on the title, Leap with Me, and kind of explained what a leap was. So tell me more about the hummingbird, because when I think of leap, I'm thinking like of a frog,
Yeah.
something, some type of animal, So why the hummingbird?
Well, the title actually comes from the first poem in the book, where it's almost like I feel like my inner voice is calling to me, leap with me, like my
Mm,
my inner voice is out there, sort of calling me to stretch, and to make the most of my life, and all of us, I believe, has that. And then the first story in the book, each chapter begins with like just a little story from my own life, and it's about a moment in my childhood when I was, probably 6 or 7, and I was in my mother's flower garden, and I saw this creature, and it was so beautiful, and there was like its colors reflecting off of its wings, and I thought it was a
Nice.
bee. And I didn't know what it was. I had never seen one before. And I realized afterwards that it was a hummingbird. But I looked around and I wanted to tell my family and have somebody show them, like, what is this creature? And there was no one there. And I think that that sort of speaks to creativity. We
Mhm.
all see we all have these moments where, no one saw that hummingbird or has ever seen a hummingbird quite the way I did in that moment when it was my
Mhm.
first time, and it was that particular hummingbird on that particular day with that particular flower. And
Mm.
so even if it feels like other people are doing what we're doing, there's other painters, there's other writers, there's other
Yes.
teachers, and it can often feel like we focus on the competition, like we're all doing the same thing. But in reality, that's what creativity is, right? Nobody
Mm.
is walking through the earth in this body that you're walking through or I'm walking through, that's had the
Yes.
experiences we've had, good, bad, whatever. No one knows what it feels like to be us in
Mm.
this moment, this distinct point in time, except for us, and it's our
Yeah.
job, I think, to own that. It's such a gift, gift to the world, to share our unique perspective. And so I've always loved hummingbirds since that time. And
Wow.
I know they're meant to represent joy, which is, I think,
Mm.
what it feels like often when we're in flow, doing our thing, whatever that is. And so, I did one design with a frog, and it just didn't look right. It just
It's
didn't
not
have
the
the
same.
energy of what the whole book
Yeah.
is about. And now we live in California, and there's a lot of hummingbirds around, and I
Nice.
they sometimes they fly straight up in the air, and then come down, and maybe they're fighting for their territory or whatever it is. But when they do that, it almost feels like they're leaping up. So I thought,
That's nice. That's
my
really cool.
intuition's telling me to put a hummingbird and that's a lot of what the book is about. We have these two voices, like
Mhm.
what should we be doing, and what gives us joy and what intuitively feels right. And I think it takes courage to follow that, that even if it doesn't make rational sense, to follow what feels intuitively right. So that's why the hummingbird's on the
That's
cover.
great. Yeah. You seem so joyful when you were talking about it too. Like I felt like I was there too with you, in that your mom's garden, just kind of just taking it all in because you paint it so vividly. Like I can feel the energy off it. I love when you
Oh.
talk about your experiences. So I know you talked briefly about flow, and it seems to be like you're really passionate about it. Can you explain a little bit about why you love flow so much? Is this book really about flow, or is it about just creatives just finding their own inner voice?
Well, indirectly it's about flow because I wrote it
Okay.
during a flow challenge, and I feel like the best parts of the book I wrote in a flow state.
Mhm.
And a lot of the prompts, and the examples are designed to help us get into a flow state. But it's not. I'm working on another book that is directly about flow. But
Nice.
um, the reason I love flow so much is because all those years when I've studied all these different practices, many of which I still teach. I still love to lead guided meditations and teach them, and everything which I mentioned was focused on getting in touch with the true self. But flow, um, when we're in flow, what I love about flow so much is that it's something that we've been doing since the day we were born, pretty much. I mean, flow is about learning. And so it's something we're all biologically encoded to get into a flow state because it feels good when we learn and we practice different skills that are good for our survival and for thriving in life. And so
Yes.
what makes me so passionate about that is because a lot of things, a lot of different practices are focused on either they're steeped in spiritual language or a language
Yes.
which we may or may not resonate to depending on our
Exactly.
beliefs. So it could
Mhm,
be a block instead of, helping us
mhm,
access that state within. Or they come with a set of, practices, like yoga is a beautiful practice and it's
mhm.
become so popular and it is focused on connecting with that energy within as well. And yet we don't know how to do yoga. We're not born knowing how to do yoga. We learn yoga. And I love practices like that and I love to teach them. But I am just so on fire about flow because it's innate. Every single person in every single culture, every single gender, every single economic level, even animals, get into a flow state. And so what a beautiful thing, right? That
It is.
we all are encoded, we're all programmed to connect with that soft, still voice, that calm energy, that intuitive, wise part of us that always knows what is in our best interest,
Yep.
whatever we know that to be. Whether we just think that's a neurological state that in
Mhm.
which we are mastering a skill. And so we have to block out everything else, including what people think of us in the moment, so that we can really get better at it, or whether it's
Yes.
spiritual, it doesn't matter. We don't, so I just love that about flow.
I can tell. So, I mean, I've been a part of many flow challenges, but I wanted you to tell people. So when they sign up for the flow challenge, what do they get? I know what we get. I love your emails, by the way. Just they're each
Oh,
one, it builds on top of what you're saying. It's just between the pictures and sometimes it's like an on time message that I needed. And I respond to you and I said, like, this is what I needed right now because it
oh.
just hits right there. So I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Can you please explain to the people who have not joined the Flow Challenge what it is and what they get with by joining?
Yes. So, first of all, the flow challenges are free, and I am 100% committed to continuing to offer them for free forever
Mhm.
because I believe in flow so much. And I've had so many miraculous, synchronistic connections with the people that show up for these flow challenges that I just believe in them so much. And during the pandemic, I offered them almost every month for the first, few years. And now I offer them at least, once to twice a year, sometimes more. And they come with, first of all, each individual person chooses their own activity. And that is super important because, flow is all about autonomy and intrinsic motivation, which means, we get into a flow state because we're doing something that's significant to us on a deep
Yes.
level. And you just choose something that takes about 5 to 10 minutes a day. And it's important to keep the bar low. And if you skip a day, it's okay. It's just keeping the momentum because it's all about making flow a habit. And so we do that. We start reprogramming our neural pathways by doing things small and building. And so that part is individual, how you do it, when you do it. I offer a lot of guidance, but that
Mhm.
part is on each participant. And then I send out a daily email, and each email includes a word of the day and a question of the day. And many people, their flow challenge is journaling on my question, and that's what they
Mm,
choose to do. Other people just use it as inspiration. And the word of the day and the question of the day are just, I kind of like the poems are designed to sort of just energetically support people as they go through the book. The word and the question of the day aren't required. You don't have to read the emails to do a flow challenge. And, anybody can do
yeah.
their own flow challenge, but it is to create this energy within the community and a focus for the day. And each word speaks to a different element of what I believe and have come to know flow to be. Just sort of as some gentle guidance or suggestions on ways people can integrate. It's all about integrating flow into like every aspect of our lives and how we see the
Yes.
world. So and then periodically I offer Zoom calls so that our community can come together, people can
Yes.
share their stories. And then what gets me into flow, I love teaching, which is why I included the exercises in my book. I love writing.
Hmm.
And that's my first joy. And then I also love leading these guided meditations. And when I lead them, I
Yeah,
don't
the
write
best.
them. I just I love just intuitively leading a guided meditation based on what people share with me they need, or intuitively I
Hmm.
pick up that people need. And that brings me joy. And so during these Zoom calls, after our sharing, I usually offer a short guided meditation. Again, it's just another way we can connect with our true self, our that energy within. So, and it's 28 days. And so that's pretty much, I change it up a little bit. Sometimes I change the words. Sometimes I change the messages depending on what I feel led to do. Often in every email now, we've done so many of these that
Hmm.
I invite people to send me their stories, what they're
Yes,
doing. And that kind of creates a sense of community
it
because
does.
no two people choose the same activity. So I
Nope.
send out photos of people's work or whatever project they're doing or whatever they want to share. And I have a lot of them on my website too. And I just think that's great because I find it so inspiring. And that often is people's favorite parts of the email is hearing what other people are up to. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. That's great. So let's get back to the book. So this is a really big book. This is actually my book, my copy. So if someone got this for the first time or was gifted this, like, how would you tell them to navigate this? Like, where would they start? Like, I need some type of starting
Yes.
point. Like, what would you do?
Okay, so what happened was when I looked at the 81 poems and I started organizing them, I realized that they fell into 7 categories.
Mm-hmm.
And these were different aspects of the creative journey, I think. And so I call these the 7 creative touchstones or 7 touchstones of creativity. And
Mm-hmm.
really, they're touchstones that I think they're things that connect us with our true selves, that the journey of connecting with our true selves is all about. And so they kind of keep us reaching for that, that when we're doing our creativity or we're doing our journaling, it's all about connecting with that inner voice. And then, so the book is divided into those 7 sections. And they are inspiration. So the question with that is what inspires us, really
Mm-hmm.
us as individuals. Process, what works for us, because we all work differently, right? Some are morning people, some are night people, we
Mm-hmm.
all have our own way. So the more we can hone how we work uniquely, that just supports our flow. And then what gets in your way? Because we all have
Mm-hmm.
blocks.
Yes.
We all have inner blocks. We all have outer blocks. A block could be limited time. A block could be
Mm-hmm.
distractions within our home. And a block can be, pain and trauma from long ago that gets in the way of getting into flow. And then life. What gives your life meaning? We all have to eat every day. We all
Mm-hmm.
have to take showers, we all have to get our kids to school. There's those things that seem not very creative, but I
Mm-hmm.
really believe like our whole lives are a creative act, right? How we do what we do is an important part of the equation. And then circles, who uplifts you, going out of our way to really connect with other people. And the book is filled with quotes from other creators because I really want
Yes.
people to feel like, they have a circle of creative friends, even if they lived, generations ago.
Mm-hmm.
Every creator has gone through similar struggles as we're going through now. And
Exactly.
then what's calling you? How do we connect with our message, our unique message, and how we're feeling called? And then your next leap. We're always,
Mm-hmm.
we're constantly moving, right? So as we feel those calls, how do we prepare and how do we support ourselves in actually leaping? And so when you asked about how people can use it, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
one way I love is just opening up to any page
Mm-hmm.
and just see, what comes and because I've designed it with lots of white space and lots of, big headlines and subheads. So you can easily kind of get guidance and message just by opening it to any page. But if one of those touchstones really speaks to you, like
Mm-hmm.
just in me listing them, often we know what we're dealing with, what's front and center
Exactly.
for us today or
Hmm.
in this moment. And so we can just go to that section of the book and do a prompt or read a poem to really address what's coming up for us now or at this stage or phase of our life journey. But we can also go through it from start to finish, as a
Hmm.
course, kind of like a Julia Cameron's, course where it's one a week. We can say, okay, I'm going to do one touchstone a week and have it be a 7-week course, or we can do
Yes.
one prompt a day, and there are a lot of prompts in here, so that would take a
Yes,
lot
yes.
longer than 7 weeks. So and I didn't want to do it in a prescriptive way because that's what it's all about is figuring out what works best for us. So I
Hmm.
really wanted to trust the reader to find, each of us find our own way through the book. And in the upfront, I have lots of suggestions. But I am just coming out with the first workbook, which is
Nice.
I decided, the
Congrats.
thank you. The prompts are questions, but
Hmm.
um there's not much space in the book to write. There's some.
Agree.
And I suggest that people get their own what I call a leap journal.
Hmm.
But then I realized kind of what you're saying is sometimes we do like a little bit more guidance on how to work with material in a book. And so
Hmm.
my intention is to offer 7 workbooks, individual workbooks, and they're very much companions to the book. So there's not, it's the prompts, but it's also lots of space to work with the prompts.
Great.
And this one is the first one. It's the secret to getting inspired. And
Wow,
I've
that's great, Lori.
yeah, I've designed them so that the readers can connect with their own secrets.
Yes,
What are
yes.
your unique secrets for being inspired and living an inspired life? So anyway, that's just another way to work with the book.
And when will that be available?
So this one's going to be available in February 2024, depending on
Hmm.
when people are listening to this. And then slowly over the coming months, I'm going to roll out one at a time. And I'll have lots on my website of ways to people can get support as they're working with the workbooks. So
Okay, that's great.
yeah,
I'm super happy for you because
thank
we
you.
talked about this, and for me to see it come to like fruition, it's great. Can't wait
Oh,
to see
thank
what
you,
you do with the
Melissa.
rest of it. That's great. So I have to ask back more about the book. So the title is Leap with Me. We are in the leap year. All right. What are you doing special
Uh,
for
yeah.
this year since it kind of ties into your book pretty well?
Yes. Well, I came up with this idea.
Okay.
I love my 28-day flow
Yes.
challenges, and they really work for me. And I love to hear people who have kept their flow habits going for years now.
Hmm.
But I wanted to offer support in taking creative leap. So for the month of February 2024, I'm going to be doing something called a leap challenge, which is, inviting people to come up with one big creative project or leap that
Cool.
you're working on in your own personal life. And then
Hmm.
every day of February, similar to the flow challenge, come up with a 5 to 10 minute activity or something that you're going to do to take a baby step towards your big leap. And then I will again be offering, support and I think daily emails. I'm still working on them.
Hmm.
Most of this challenge is going to be on Instagram.
Oh,
So
nice.
every day I'm going to have a story or a post. So I'll very much be supporting people in taking their baby step leaps that way as well as email. And then on the 29th, which is that extra day we get because of leap year, I'm
Yes,
going to be
yes.
offering an all-day Zoom retreat. So every
Nice.
hour, I'm going to be on Zoom and I'll do a little guided meditation and we'll talk about what's going on with everyone as far as their big leap. And then
Hmm.
we'll break and you can
Okay.
go off and work on your creative project or if, obviously in different time zones, people will be doing different things in their lives. And then we'll come
Yes.
back and again, we'll connect. And I'm going to use each hour to just do a little meditation on each of the 7
That's
touchstones that are in the
great.
book. So, because, February is that time when, we set these New Year's resolutions and
I was
goals.
gonna say that. I was going to
Yeah.
say that. Yes, yes.
And we lose a little momentum. And so I just wanted to offer some other way that we can all support each other in continually moving forward with our dreams and our creative dreams and honoring our creativity, in a more directed way. And I'll go back to the flow challenges, which are very much just about doing something for its own sake and not worrying about where it's leading us. But
Hmm.
hopefully, when we take our little leaps towards our big leap, we'll be we'll be getting into flow along the way. So, yeah.
That's great. So recently you signed a contract with Hay House on publishing a new book about flow, which you're so passionate about. I can't say congratulations enough. This is like you inspire me in so many ways because not only did you write books years ago, like you came back out, you got fresh ideas, and you put all of it into Leap with Me. Now you got Flow Book. Tell me, what did you learn from writing Leap with Me, and how are you applying it to your new book? And do you have a title for your new book just yet, or just that's in the making? Like we talked about this the processes before in our circles, like, and it's always like, you never know in which is the best direction to go. So do you feel like you're more experienced now? Like what hurdles did you overcome? Like you have the floor.
Thank you, Malika. I am so excited about this book. I have wanted to publish a book with Hay House for more than 20 years. I have a picture of myself, and when we lived in New Jersey, my husband and I did a cross-country trip, and I specifically, tracked down the headquarters of Hay House Publishing, and at that time Louise Hay was still alive, and I have a picture of myself in front of the sign because it's a dream, and I have such respect for Louise Hay. She published her first book and started that publishing company. I think she was 60 or in her 60s. And so
Really
it just goes to show it's never too late. And I just really admire, their focus on the reader and just the way they lay out their books. And so I'm just thrilled. And I won a contest. I won a writing contest. And that's how I
nice.
came to get this publishing deal. So that's really special and
Hmm.
super exciting. So, and the name of the book is The Flow Habit. And
Nice.
so it's all about making flow a regular habit in our lives. Yeah, and my biggest advice for anyone with a passion is just to focus on what you love.
Mm,
Just keep focusing on what you love. Even if you don't think you're good at it, even if you don't, know where you're headed with it, even if, you can't see ahead yet, because when we're focusing on our joy, when we're doing what brings us joy, opportunities open up, and the
mm,
next step just reveals itself, because flowing is all about doing, right? So the more we keep doing things that honor what we love, somehow things
yes.
just fall into place. And then it's all about learning.
Hmm.
That's what I found. I published these, I created my own business called Spreading Sunshine Books, LLC, my own publishing company to self-publish them. And I did everything. I designed the cover, I laid out the inside, I, filed for my Library of Congress number. I did it was a
Hmm.
lot of work. But I really, really, really wanted to do that because I've always loved writing, and I knew I wanted to be an author, and I wanted to learn everything there was about publishing. And I knew that Leap with Me wasn't going to be my first book. And so I that learn sometimes it's really, really hard to get out of our comfort zone and learn things that we might not be
Yes.
that good at, or might not
Hmm.
think we're good at. But like I said, it always leads somewhere. So um, I just feel like the process of doing it all with Leap with
Hmm.
Me helped me grow. It challenged me. It stretched me. It made me think about books in a whole different way as far
Mm,
as what first of all, and give me a lot of respect for all of the moving parts that go into producing a book. So I have so much respect for all the people that work in these publishing houses, and I want to learn from them. So that's
Mm.
one of the reason I'm so excited to work with the Hay House. I just want
Yeah.
to learn from the best of the best who are in the
Hmm.
industry. But then the other thing is, I feel like once we do it all, you know, I love writing most of all. And so I look forward to working with a publisher so I can do more of that,
Yes.
and be supported. I'm really working on receiving support and accepting support.
Yes.
Um, and yet I think that it's easier to do that when we've been in the trenches too. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So I think it's good to just buckle up and do everything and do this hard stuff and, you know, there's good in it all. It's so I guess it's a long-winded way of saying get curious and focus on learning,
Hmm.
just have everything be about learning. So even if those tasks that bring us down or we don't think we're good at or they're arduous and we think, oh, okay, well, the next time I want to hire someone to do this because this is just draining me. But right
Hmm.
now, I'm just going to get curious and I'm going to learn all I can possibly learn from this and get whatever gifts I'm supposed to from being where I am at this point in time, because
Yes.
then we invite flow, right? And so we're not
Hmm.
looking at these as arduous chores where it all leads to something, they're all building blocks to something greater. So I guess that's it. Don't be afraid to do things that you don't think you're equipped to do. And also, when you get to the point where you know you're ready, then open up and be willing to open up to getting support from places unexpected places. And but most of all, I think it's just trust yourself. I think every person has a unique gift that
Mm.
no one else in the world can offer. And it's really important to remember that and just trust. And that gift will be revealed to you through joy and through flow. And the more you focus on what brings you joy, or the more you find creative ways to make doing what you do joyful in your own
Mhm.
cute, unique signature way, the greater the chances that you'll get into flow, and the greater the chances is that, your next step will be revealed to you, and it probably won't be what you think it was. Um, but it's just all about that. It's all about baby steps and putting one foot in front of the other. And I say this, and this is all what I'm trying to remember every
I
single
know.
day,
And
which
remind
is,
yourself, yep, yep,
yeah,
take your own advice.
yeah.
So when you hear people, start writing their books and they say about time, like, well, I've been writing this book for X amount of time, X amount of years, what would you say to people who say, well, I've been doing it for 5 years and the book's still not done? What would what advice would you give to a writer who just started out a month ago versus 5 years ago? They're still on that first draft or the second draft or the 10th draft. What would you recommend? What would you say to them?
You know, there's a great quote, and I don't remember it, but it's sort of like, it never seems like it's going to get done. If we focus, I'm botching the quote, but you know, um, I have been. There are books that I've written, you know, that are 20 years old that I've written, and I
Yes.
know, but they haven't seen the light of day, and
Mhm.
yet elements of them got worked into Leap with Me, and I think there's
Mm.
something really powerful. Someone recently introduced me to this word synthesize, and it's one of
Mm.
my favorite words now because I think, when we write the first draft, it might seem like it's hatched, and it's
Yes, I
done.
know.
And then we put it
Yes.
down and we live.
Mhm. Yep.
And we're, pushing a swing on the playground with our kid,
Yes.
or we're scrubbing our toilet, or we're, you know, struggling with a health crisis or whatever it
Mhm.
is. But in those moments, we're getting wisdom, or we're getting,
Yeah.
a new idea, or if we're writing fiction, we're hearing the way doctors and nurses talk to each other in a hospital, and we're
Yep.
incorporating that into our dialogue, or we're
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
so,
Yes.
and then we go back and we write our next draft, and we feel like,
Mhm.
oh, I lost so much time because I put it down for a year and I haven't touched it.
Mhm.
And then we do it again and again and again, and that book gets better and better and better. And so I just think there's an organic process to every creative being coming into form, and it doesn't
Mhm.
always look, I mean, if there's anything I've learned, it's we learn about flow not by outlining our book and sticking to it to a T. We learn about it
Mhm.
by, looking at hummingbirds and, it's looking at waves of an ocean. It's it and when we're in flow, time stands still,
Mm.
or what is time, and so I know it's frustrating because even with the Hay House, it's going to take at least 2 years for my book to hit the shelves from when
Mm.
I first got the contract. But the funny thing is, Leap with Me, I wrote it myself. I wrote the 81 poems, which I edited very little. I really didn't edit them much at all, in 10 days. So you think, oh, you could have published it in 2 weeks, right?
Mhm.
But I didn't. I wrote it, and then I've been announced to my email list multiple times, "Oh, it's coming." And then I've hit, a roadblock with the
Yeah.
cover, or I'd hit a roadblock with this. And so, it probably took me 2 years at least to publish Leap with Me, even though I was doing it on my own, because I
Mhm.
don't know, when you're staying true to the way creativity works,
Mhm.
it takes time,
You can't
and
force it either.
yeah. Yeah, and it's worth it. I think it's really worth it. And you know this, Malika, because I know in our
Yes.
writing circle, I've witnessed you going through edits and more edits and waking up in the middle of the night with ideas for your dialogue, and
So exciting, and then you hit this block, and you're like, "Where do I go from here?" And then you put it down, and you pick it back up, and then you touch on one part, and then you put it back down, you pick it back. It's ongoing. I'm still in the middle of that. So I appreciate all your words of wisdom, and I'm sure I'm gonna be picking your brain when it comes time for me to get to the self-publishing part, because I do want to do that as well for at least my first book. So you watch out. I'm gonna be bugging you for that. But so just because you have such a wealth of knowledge on just all these things, like first you go into the self-publishing, and then now you're gonna actually with the actual publishing house. So I kind of want to see what the experiences are. I know you just sign the contract, but I want to see how that is for you. You
yeah.
know.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, you are one of the wisest people I know, to be
Yeah.
honest, when it comes to honoring the process. Like when we do our Zoom calls with our writing circle, time and time again, you come from this place of self-knowledge, which is what it's all about, right? And honoring boundaries. And I know your kids are much younger than my kids,
Hmm.
and it's hard to keep committed to our own
Yes.
passions sometimes and what brings us joy. It's good to remember that as moms or
Hmm.
parents, when we're holding the energy for our kids to do that. And I just think it's so beautiful. I've learned so much from you too, as far as, I mean,
Oh,
that's
thank
why we
you.
do this, right? Like that's why we
Yes.
have community. Um, but you are definitely an expert when it comes to honoring that process and staying with your creative babies, and being loyal to the creativity that's coming out of you. So I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
about you sharing your
Can't
your
wait.
stories too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you had one final thing to say to your audience, what would it be?
Go for it, trust yourself, um, stay true to your gifts. And if you
Mm,
don't know what they are, just keep doing what brings you joy day after day after day. Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lori. I appreciate this time together.
Thank you,
I do.
Malika.